Hi guys, Dr. Kendra Pope here, Integrative Veterinary Oncologist. Welcome back to my channel. Last time we talked about how cancer is actually more likely to be an environmental than a genetic disease, and about how only 5 to 10% of cancers are actually caused by true genetic reasons or bad luck. Today we're going to talk about how many cancer cells are actually present at the time of a cancer diagnosis. Did you know by the time that cancer is detectable on traditional screening tests like x-rays or ultrasound or a CT CAT scan that there's already 1 billion cancer cells present? Let's talk a little bit about what is a cancer cell and how do they get there, and how can so many cells be present before we can find any of them on our traditional tests. So what is a cancer cell? Now this is where the whole kind of paradigm or thought or focus about cancer needs to be shifted. Because when we think about cancer, we think about it as this enemy that we need to attack, about this outside invader that we need to destroy and we need to get rid of. But what cancer really is our own cells that have lost their ability to control, have normal mechanisms, basically stay in place and do what they're supposed to do, and have outgrown all of those and adapted and modified to basically grow out of control. So one thing that a lot of people don't know is that in all animals, humans, pets, all of us, we have this innate healing capacity and these innate mechanisms inside of our body that are always killing cancer cells for us. And that the development of cancer cells happen every single day. This is not uncommon. This is because of the environments we live in. This is because of the toxins that we're exposed to the pollution that we breathe in, to the UV light that we're exposed to. All of these things damage our cells. And there's these innate capacity within our body, within our repair systems, in our repair genes, like we've talked about in other videos, where when these insults happen, our body knows exactly what to do and how to fix them. There's some research and some literature published on the human side that show that on average, the average human person will develop cancer 7 times in their lifetime and never become clinical for it. And that's because of these repair capacities that are already existing in all of our bodies, humans, animals, all of us the same. So what normal activities, what normal capacity does the body have to be able to handle these cancer cells that are developing all the time and being killed all the time? Well, one of them, as most people would think about, is your immune system. You need a healthy immune system. There's very specific immune cells. The most common ones that the most research is done on is something called NK cells, natural killer cells. These are white blood cells of our immune system that they know exactly what to do. They know how to identify cancer cells, and they know how to basically induce cancer cell death, which is a term called apoptosis. But the rest of our immune system also helps and plays along with bringing in other white blood cells that are necessary to clean up the mess, to make sure that those NK cells are working correctly, and to make sure that once those cancer cells are killed, that they're excreted from the body. Now, what has to be healthy for the immune system to function appropriately? Well, another factor that is really important is your inflammation status. So inflammation and immune system health go hand in hand. When there's too much inflammation in the body, the immune system gets confused, it can't work appropriately. And when there's normal amounts of inflammation, low inflammation, the immune system can be nice and strong. And so these play an integral role with one another to make sure that we're always keeping this balance. The third part that's really important when we're talking about what needs to be intact and what needs to be healthy so that these can all function appropriately is actually the gut. So not everybody realizes that 80% of our immune system is actually housed in our GI tract. We're actually made up more of microbes and bugs and yeasts and fungal organisms than we actually are any other cells. And so that microbiome, that ecosystem of all of those microbes actually is essential to the health of so many things within our body, but absolutely primarily our immune system. So when a human or an animal is eating lots of processed food, consuming too many carbohydrates or sugar, having other types of diets that are going to cause imbalances in that microbe environment, that's going to weaken the immune system and weaken its ability to recognize those cancer cells. So how do we go from having just a single cancer cell or a few cancer cells when that immune system is weakened to having a mass that is detectable on an X-ray or an ultrasound? It actually can take a very long time to do so. And so there's this prolonged period of time in between that immune system being strong enough to contain it, where it's overcome and becomes large enough to detect on X-rays or ultrasounds. And how big it has to be is 1 centimeter. Now, that 1 centimeter mass that we will be able to see when your pet goes in for an ultrasound or an X-ray, at that point, there's already 1 billion cancer cells. So at that point, although it may be really early in the time of diagnosis, it's not early in the time of the progression. There's been a long period of time where we've gone from 1 or 2 cancer cells to 1 billion. And it's that time period in between where integrative medicine, natural medicine, holistic medicine has the most powerful tools to address that immune system health, inflammation status, and gut health. Because even when we're on that continuum from 1 or 2 cancer cells to 1 billion cancer cells, that immune system function, that health can be restored to try to bring that back down. Because the body already has the innate ability to do that. And it's in that microscopic disease setting when there's just a few cells that our body has the most tools and is most powerful to keep control of all of them. So naturally, the next question would be, well, what can I do to detect this earlier? And are there any screening diagnostics that we can do to kind of find that space in between the 1 or 2 cancer cells and the 1 billion? And the answer is yes. Now, these are not the traditional types of cancer screenings that we do. These are more focused on the general health, inflammation, immune, gut health status of your pet. And these are going to be tests that we're going to dive deeper into the future so that you can learn more about how to do this and assess the risk for your pet. I hope that you learned something today that you didn't know about before. If you have any questions or other topics that you would like for me to talk about, leave that in the comments so that we can address it in the future. See you guys next time.